I'm Mark Weiss. Welcome to Wisdom Applied. When viewed in the larger strategic context, an employment agreement is one of the main links between a physician group and its employed physicians. But its role isn't simply to deal with the substantive duties, the work hours, and compensation to be paid. It's also to impact, to cajole, to incentivize and disincentivize the employee's actions in a manner consistent with the group's overall interests. Nevertheless, I see so many employment agreements that suffer from what I call the management side labor lawyer syndrome. They consist of a litany of prohibitions and penalties that would make a hanging judge blush. They tightly dispense vacation and sick days as if they were gold. They attempt to extend trade secret protection to things as simple as the color of memo pads. But these agreements scream, you'd be an idiot to take this job. And obviously, that's not the best approach. In order to be effective in respect of the long-term success of your group, a physician employment agreement has got to achieve a balance between attracting physicians to your employ and rewarding them for their efforts in furtherance of your group's overall goals, sort of the golden handcuff side. And it also has to make certain that they comply with the obligations and duties of the position and understand what happens to them if they don't, the noose side of the deal. I have 6 golden rules for you to consider in respect of physician employment agreements. Rule number 1. Even though you might run the most famous medical practice in the universe, when a candidate comes to interview with you, he or she is tuned into only one internal radio station, and that is WIIFM, What's in It for Me. Your employment agreement has to be tuned in to that same frequency. Rule number 2. Address what's important to the candidate in the agreement both first and last. When psychologists study how people choose from lists and what they recall, they've come up with what they describe as the primacy and recency effects. People tend to remember and select the first and last items from a list. So that's where provisions that the employee wants to see should appear, both first and last in the agreement. Rule number 3. At all costs, avoid the labor lawyer look. If the world's most successful corporations can hire their chief executive officers using a 2 or 3 page letter form agreement, there's no reason why your physician employment agreement has to contain 50 pages of prohibitions. Rule number 4. Think strategically. Don't simply describe days and hours of work and patient care duties. Think also about what your group's long-term strategies are, and think about the tactic of using your employee to achieve those goals. What needs to be included in the employment agreement in that regard? Number 5. Yes, protect the group's interests. That's one of the prime reasons why you are creating an employment agreement. But understand that you need to do that in a simple, not a complicated way. Many times, one sentence can replace paragraphs. For example, a simple representation by the physician that he or she can perform the duties, that there's nothing prohibiting him or her from doing it, and that there's nothing that prohibits the group from billing and collecting for those services, can take the place of paragraph after paragraph of descriptions of not being debarred from participation in federal health care programs. Rule number 6. Remember, your candidate is thinking only, what's in it for me? You must tune into that frequency. Yes, I know that's rule number 1, but in accordance with rule number 2, that's the point, isn't it?